My friend Max and I were doing a bunch of security audits for SEOs, as you guys been talking about. And we wanted to also write a contract because we're knee deep in the stuff. So we were thinking of a cool experiment / like art project thing to do. So I assume most of you remember the $1 million homepage. Yeah. Or wait, it's not working. It's not working.
And what year was this? That was like circa 2000 or
yeah, this was 12 years ago, almost exactly 12 years a month ago. So we wanted to build something similar on the Ethereum blockchain.
So what is this already?
Oh, so the $1 million homepage, for those of you who are younger, is basically this one guy was graduating school, had some debt, and wanted to make $1 million real quick. So he put up this site and he sold each of these pixels for like $1 each, and he filled it out after about 9 months or so. Yeah, he was living in London. Now he works on the meditation app in San Francisco, in case anyone was wondering. What does this look like as a contract? So I'm going to kind of make it a little more of a technical talk, but also show you how what a contract actually looks like. A lot of people have been talking about blockchain, but never actually seen a contract, and what a Dapp looks like, a distributed application. So this is our contract. It's bigger. You can actually go, this is all live. You can go to this address and see it, an Etherscan. Etherscan is this kind of Ethereum blockchain explorer that crawls all the transactions and stores them and visualizes them in a nice handy way. So we publish our contract code on here so you can read it. And this is written in Solidity. Here's like a more syntax highlighted version, trying to do a little better. So we have some events that we emit. We emit like a buy event, a publish event, a set ad owner event. We have some constants, the prices of each pixel, how many cells per pixel, our grid. And then we instantiate it over here. I'm just going to like quickly fly through it so you have an idea what a contract looks like. And this is like the meat of the function. So if you're going to look for an exploit, you probably look for it here. So this is the buy function. And the way you know it's the meat is it has this variable keyword, which means it accepts money. If you send value to any other one, it won't work. It won't inject it into the actual address of the contract. And the way Ethereum contracts work is you have a method, you have like an interface to declare, and then other people know how to interact with it. So in this case, we have this buy method. It accepts like an X position, a Y position, a width and a height, and some amount of money. And here we check a bunch of stuff. Did you supply enough money? Is that position already used up by another ad? And then if all looks good, then we add the ad to our grid storage, and we emit a buy event, and we return the index over here. So pretty straightforward. And then similarly, once you have an ad that you own, you can apply once you have a slot, you can apply an image to it. So you can say for ad at the index which we return here, let's say your ad is index 7, you can just apply a link and an image and title, and whether it's NSFW, which is kind of like a logistical hurdle we had to throw in there in case someone starts throwing nasty stuff on there. And then we have some basic stuff where the admins can override an ad to be NSFW in case you didn't like opt in yourself. And then of course we can withdraw our own money once we raise the money. So the owner of the contract can call withdraw, which will transfer the balance to the withdrawal wallet. And this is another thing that a lot of experts can get all the money, which sucks. So this way, if we screw up this check, it's still going to send the money to us. So it doesn't matter if someone else is able to execute this. So there's a bunch of kind of safety layers you want to put into your code when you're dealing with this.
So is that a ERC20 wallet?
What's that?
So with the withdraw wallet, is that an address?
Yeah, so we define stuff at the top. So yeah, we have draw wallet, an address, contract owner.
So is that dot transfer or dot send?
So the transfer.send are similar but different. .send returns a Boolean, whether it's succeeded or not, and transfer just will revert if it doesn't succeed. And in this case, that's what we want to do. And also one more note. So we're launching this officially next Monday. And this is kind of like a trial run to kind of see what people, if you have any questions, please ask them, because we're going to write up this whole article.
The code on GitHub? Or?
Yep, it's all open source.
Where do you find it?
I will show you in a second.
Awesome.
But yeah, ask questions, please, and that'll give me an idea of what to write up for next week.
What's like the goal?
So the goal is kind of mimic the $1 million homepage, but do it in a trustless way. So you can like provably, you can interface this yourself. You can send money yourself and get an ad without me having to like receive an email and accept money over like wire transfer or whatever.
So what's the use of funds? Like
the use of funds is, it's an art project.
Okay.
So I mean, we could use it to build our next project, I guess. So it's not an ICO as such. It's not a utility coin by any means. I mean, I guess we're providing an advertising venue, so you are buying a slot, so it does have some utility, but otherwise it's just more of a interesting experiment, kind of like a use case that people can relate to. So anyways.
What's the website called? 1,000 Ethereum.
Yes, so I'm going to show you what we have. So the code looks like this, and this is what it actually looks like. So when you go to 1000etherhomepage.com, you can do that right now. If you haven't, you can do it with an Ethereum-enabled wallet, like MetaMask, Mist, etc. Or even without an Ethereum-enabled wallet, it'll still work. It'll just be read-only. And you might recognize some of the companies here. We'd love to have more of you. But
can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So just for context.
Yes.
And sorry for how many pixels would that next block thing be?
So you can look. We can hit the little inspecting and see it is 400. It's 200 by 80.
Okay.
So you can multiply that by 0.001 ether. Figure. Or you could just go to the contract and look up exactly how much they sent.
Oh yeah, cool.
Because it's all on the blockchain. The lovely. So in fact, here you can see every transaction. So it's how much money is currently sitting around in there. Every transaction that's happening is in here. You can see someone's on 3.2, 16 ether. Good math. All right, so this is what it looks like. I'm going to switch to the testnet so I can actually show you what it looks like when it's running, which is kind of cool. So
images also stored on the blockchain. There's no like backend.
So they can be. We support Swarm. We support IPFS. We support HTTPS. We support data encoded images, so you can throw images literally on the blockchain. It's more expensive. You have to pay the storage fees, obviously.
Is it difficult? You have to decide to support each of those separately with the code, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, each one is about a line of code. So we mostly use. We have actually a static version that gets rendered in the background that we pre-render, and then we load the actual images on top. Eventually, we might switch to only using the static version and extract it. And let's see. We have a bot basically that downloads the images on a regular basis and pre-renders them in case your images are slow or don't render. But yeah, so we have this cool little interface. So this is a Dapp. So the other side was the actual smart contract. Smart contract is a thing you deploy into the blockchain and that you can interface with regardless of the Dapp. The Dapp is like an interface on top of the Dapp. So the Dapp knows how to speak to the smart contract. So I hit this little buy button. I get this little square I can drag around. If it overlaps, it says it's not available. If it doesn't, it says it's available. It tells me exactly how much it costs. I can grow it. I can shrink it.
Is there a minimum amount of pixels that you can?
Yeah, so it's the same thing as the $1 million homepage. This is the minimum 10 by 10. You don't want to sell individual pixels because then people can't really fit ads into like a 9 by 3, whatever. So I'm going to do a quick demo here. So we're going to buy some math. Okay, I'm going to do 100 by 20. Let's put it like right in the middle-ish.
So why does this look different from the other page in terms of where these pictures are?
So they mean the original one with like next block. So this is on the test net.
It is, I see.
So the other one's on the main net. So right now I don't want to waste real money on this presentation. You can use MetaMask, you can use Mist, you can use whatever you want as long as it supports the Ethereum Dapp stuff. So this is really cool. So you hit the buy button and you just get this kind of confirmation like right off the bat. Like, and all you got to do is hit this magic submit button and it's done. You don't have to make an account, you don't have to choose a password, you validate your email, you don't have to put in a credit card, it just works. So back in the day, the $1 million homepage launched. I'm actually going to open this.
Where do you upload the image?
What's that?
Where do you upload the image?
I'll do that stuff next. So in the $1 million homepage,
no IDs, passwords, login, management,
yeah, just completely like the auth is built in, the money's built in, everything's built in. It's $1 million homepage. The guy like literally gave you an email address. You sent it to him. You like negotiate a price. You send him the money somehow by like envelope, and maybe you get an ad later. Here, everything is trustless and it just like works on the blockchain, and you don't have to like rely on my interface if you want. And I'll show you. We can do this off of this interface later too. All right, so the ad went through. Now I can go ahead of my ads. I have a bunch of ads, as you can see. So this is the ad I bought. We have a little EULA-ish type thing. So let's put universe in here. I have a little universe logo I prepared. I know, right? Let's see if I can remember it.
Why didn't you make it like a game, like the art place?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of things you could do.
Or like bidding on like an auction format.
Yeah, so that's kind of a balance between making it as similar as possible to the $1 Million homepage while still like modernizing it in some ways. There have actually been other attempts where they like go too far and it's just not similar enough, or they're like too literal. Like there's one that was trying to raise $1 million Ether, which is like just a certain amount of money that no one's gonna go for. So it's kind of a balance between making it realistic and usable and like not go too crazy about it. So yeah, we sent in the transaction, and here's the universe. It's not super live, like it's just the preview. That's going to be live in about 20 seconds if you visit the webpage. So this actually goes on the blockchain, so someone has to mine this transaction. So latency is like, depends on your gas you supply, can be like 15 seconds to like half a minute, like a few minutes if you're like really cheap. But yeah, and that's what it works like. So now if I reload this, oh, this is a bug. Cool, I will fix that. So now it shows up huge for some reason. I haven't figured out why. But if we go in the contract, we'll see it still hasn't quite been mined, but it still shows up. Interesting. So I think different number of confirmations or something. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. I don't know why that happened before. So yeah, now it shows up. There we go. It's been mined. So I sent 2 Ether worth 2 minutes ago. I published it. We can go in here actually see what the transaction was. Like I was calling this method publish. It emitted this event that I can't really interpret. Like if you have to know the interface of stuff to kind of get to be able to read the data. So this kind of only knows one half of it. And then similarly, like we can use this interface, but you don't have to rely on my interface if you don't want to. So there's in Etherscan, there's a bunch of other apps that you can import contracts into. You can directly interact with the contract in here. So let me switch to the testnet version just so I show something. Contract. There we go. So like I can query the ads, for example, can say add in slot 1 is this ad, and this tells me all this information. Add in slot 3 is this other ad. Somewhere here. I can just query the grid. I can import this contract into a whole other interface, and you can build other interfaces on top of it. People can mash it up. And yeah, so it's basically like a really simple example that you can relate to and kind of understand what the goal is and what the contract should be doing. Like it's not hard to imagine what the contract should be doing. A lot of smart contracts out there try to do way too much. Like they have, it was when we were speccing this out, it was very tempting to have an auction or like come up with an algorithm where we make ads in the middle more expensive and ads on the other side cheaper, and like referral systems, all these kinds of things are definitely doable, but it adds a larger attack surface to your smart contract, first of all, and as security auditors, we wanted to avoid that. And second of all, it kind of takes away from the spirit of the project in some ways.
Andre, I have a question. So maybe I missed this. So the image, the address of the image, location of the image is stored on the blockchain?
So you can store it. So that's up to you. You provide a link, whether you store it in Swarm, or IPFS or HTTPS, or you actually base64 encode the image and shove it on the blockchain. That's up to you.
So then when this web page is rendering, it goes to Swarm to get the actual images?
Some of them, yeah. There's one on here that's Swarm. One of them one of these is IPFS, one of these is Swarm. This is my
Swarm?
Swarm is another.
But what I mean is that the format and the location of these images are on the blockchain, although you can store them in.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So if you see this is whatever.
Got it.
There's another one that's IPFS, whatever.
I see. And then when this page is loaded, it goes to the blockchain, it gets that information, then goes out and gets the asset where it needs to go.
So I'm using Chrome here, and Chrome obviously doesn't know how to speak to Swarm and IPFS. So we are actually using a gateway at the moment. But you can build your own interface that does support these things natively.
It's cool. I like it. Good job, man.
Is that metadata stored on the blockchain, like that IP address you were
Yeah,
talking about?
all of this stuff is on the blockchain. All of this, like the layout of the ad and who owns the ad. Also, you can transfer the ownership of the ad. So if you want to create a second market and like resell ads, you can do that as well. You can rent out your ads if you wanted to. That's another thing you can't really do on a $1 million homepage without going through the owner. So there's like definitely layers of stuff you could do basically for free out of the box by just having it as a smart contract that you otherwise would have a lot of trouble building out.
It's a cool kind of.
When you're building this now, I mean, clearly there's a lot of advantages over like traditional website. What are you most excited about in terms of applications that this is kind of like open your eyes to?
So I mean, to me, I think the most underappreciated thing about, so this whole stack is called Web3. Web3 is like the layer that lets you interface with the Ethereum blockchain in the browser. And the 3 is supposed to stand for like 3 different pieces. It has the Ethereum blockchain, as Swarm, which is a storage thing, and it has Whisper, which is the communication thing. And I think the thing that is underappreciated right now is that it solves authentication. And we've seen this a bunch of other sites, like there's ETHLancer, for example, where if you want to put out an ad for like work or someone wants to pick up work, there's no authentication, just your wallet is your authentication. Your money transfers goes directly there and you can pay people without even creating any logins or emails or anything like that. And I think that's super, like, that ecosystem around Web3 is actually a huge boon to the Ethereum ecosystem. I think that's the one thing Ethereum has a huge advantage of versus any other thing at the moment, is it has a strong ecosystem of dApps that are like surprisingly useful. I think people will see it more and more.
Andre, I have a question. Given dApps that are, we envision them being bigger, more complicated, how do you envision these more ambitious dApps sort of functioning given the price of gas, or given the price of ETH as it kind of fluctuates over time?
Yeah, the price of gas will also move around. So I think ultimately that price of gas won't be too expensive. And also you can vary your price of gas. Like when I submit the transaction, when MetaMask asks me to pay for something, it asks me how much I want to, yeah, so you can specify a value in your gas price. And basically that just means how soon you want this to be mined. If you go
I see.
If you go above average, it'll be quicker. If you go below average, it'll be slower. But like right now, it's not the same situation as Bitcoin, where there's a mempool of like hundreds of megs of transactions that won't be mined for like months.
So you're saying that some of these apps will call out to an oracle to get the current price in order to just
no. This already works. Like it just looks at the last few Ethereum blocks and looks at the average, like the median gas price and the variance, and then that kind of will inform you what you should use now.
Dynamically.
Yeah, dynamically. But also, you don't, again, you can set whatever value that you want. So if you're not in a rush, you can set it to 1. And it'll probably eventually get mined. Maybe not.
So you don't see any issue of the price of Ether being somehow of a soft cap on these, having a soft cap due to the running of these dApps?
I think the biggest expense for smart contracts is they're overcomplicated. Like a lot of contracts just try to do way too much in one place.
I agree with that.
Like we're auditing one contract and it was like you have to pay. It was like 200 ETH, not 200. It was a 0.2 Ether worth of gas just to get it to like run, which was like super expensive. It was like $200 essentially just to get the main bit to run, and it wasn't really doing anything super valuable. It was just kind of doing it in an efficient way. So yeah, I think there's a lot of niches where smart contracts make sense, and there's a much larger world where the current setup does not make sense, and we need to balance how we use them. Like we need to use them in ways that they're useful for, not for things that they're not.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Is there a way to estimate how much gas a particular function?
Yeah, so that's a subset of the halting problem. So gas is determined by each instruction. Each instruction has a different cost when it's built into the assembly instructions. So it's hard to programmatically know that a program will stop. So what you do is basically you often will pre-run it locally, and kind of measure it, and then you'll have an idea of how much it will cost when someone else runs it. So keep in mind, every transaction that you execute on a smart contract, every other node essentially has to execute it. So a lot of people have this misconception that because it's referred to as the global computer, but unlike TrueBit, Ethereum, like literally every transaction gets executed by everyone. Like all the miners executed, all the like verifier nodes executed, everyone executes it. So you executing your transaction ahead of everyone else, kind of measuring it, is kind of how it's expected to work.
I didn't understand your point about authentication.
Yeah, so authentication. So you might have noticed that I bought this ad, but I never actually like logged in or anything. But it still knows it's me, right?
Well, it knows it's your address.
Yeah. So the way it knows is because I give it access to some. There's an API that speaks to my wallet, and my wallet is my authentication. Yeah. So my point is like traditional websites. You go on there, you go create an account, you put an email address, put a password, you check your email, you click on a link, you like blah 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 blah. You don't have to do any of that.
No, I understand. You just log in with your address.
Yeah.
Do you think that then like managing identity companies have to do that now, right? Database, password, all that kind of stuff, so that just goes away.
But there's still reasons to identify people like you are this human, because
I mean that's a separate problem.
Right, but some like platforms would only want one user per person, for example. Like,
but that's very hard to prove. Like even using an email address won't help you.
No, I know, but
and then there's all kinds of identity.
No, but that's why they do
background checks.
KYC.
Yeah, exactly. And that's definitely a thing.
KYC with your address and just connect your address.
Exactly, and I think that's what it's going to look like in the end. Is like ideally, there's a bunch of projects out there that are trying to do identity on the blockchain to some extent, like doing background checks and things like that. And it would be really cool if you could KYC yourself and like verify that you're an accredited investor and have it actually be verified in the smart contract. So like by sending money, it can like validate that you're allowed to send money. And that would be a super cool application, which I think we'll see probably next year.
Could this be the future of monetizing and distributing ads on like billboards and urinal ads?
I've seen a few things that actually try to build an ad system on blockchains. They're not super fleshed out as far as, I mean, Brave is kind of doing that in a backwards way. That's kind of, so we're going to run through this experiment, see how it goes, and see what kind of feedback we get. But another idea is to kind of branch this out into like a more generic, like buy-sell ad system where, like right now, there's buysell.com that a lot of people use, where you can like set up a slot on your blog that you can sell to people. But like you go through this mediator, and it's really annoying. It'll be cool to kind of do that on the blockchain to some extent as well.
For that to happen, I think Ethereum has to scale. Like ad servers typically process ad servers currently typically process like 1 million transactions per second or something.
Well, I mean, like depends on what you're serving up. Because if you're buying a block for like a month, you don't have to check it every single time. You can check it once per month. And then
it's ultimately, if it's rendered down to one image, I mean, that could be the image that's displayed in the second urinal of the bar. Yeah,
it's all doable.
Like, on the Gardner Expressway or something.
Yeah, exactly. There's all kinds of interesting use cases that we can still apply here even now. It doesn't.
So so in your functions, did you measure how much gas it would take?
Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty good idea just from experience, but in fact, when you go on this, you get to explore each of these transactions. You can open them up. So this is the main one. Where's the other one?
How are you planning on advertising this? Just kind of.
So we're doing. Yeah. So we did a little bit of a pre-sale. If anyone's interested in getting some main real estate, now's the time. We're doing a write-up for Hacker News on Monday. So that's kind of going to be our like launch, and then we're going to promote it on like Reddit and stuff. It's just kind of see where it goes. If anyone has ideas, we're open to that. So yeah, you can kind of see.
Raised 28 so far. That's not bad.
Yeah. So gas used by this transaction is this amount. So this kind of gives you an idea.
If you want to get on it, is the best way just to do what you just said.
Absolutely. Or if you need any help, let me know and I will help you through it. But yeah, it's actually a really cool experience too. Like it's every time I've done it, it feels like magic. Like I've been doing this, like I've been doing cryptocurrency stuff since like 2011, and it's still every time I do it, it feels like magic. And I wouldn't want to deprive anyone of the magical feeling of buying an ad on a blockchain. That's like half the value, really.
What's the minimum amount you can buy?
It's,
What would be the cost be?
I mean, it's 100, so
$100. Yeah.
$28, yeah.
Oh, 20. Oh, 20.
I mean, Ethereum's cheap right now, so.
Oh, sorry, it would be 0.1 Ether. Yeah.
Is there any way you can make a cheaper version, maybe with like an expiry time or TTL on the?
No, but did you make
also-
the testnet one public? Did you make the testnet one public?
Yep.
So you can just use the testnet.
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, you could do. I mean, that's what it
But
is.
it'd also be cool to have like a production one where like ads had like a.
But actually, the testnet one is
Lifespan.
pretty much exactly the same
It is,
experience.
Kind of like
yeah.
a domain name or something. Where you
Yeah, but with like a built-in expiry time, so things would constantly be changing.
Yeah, so I mean, we would, once our testnet fills up, we'll just swap it out with like a new one.
Right.
We don't give any guarantees about the
Cool.
testnet version, but the mainnet one we were hoping to keep up for at least like half a decade, maybe a decade.
Not forever.
I mean, if we fill it out, we'll keep it out forever, probably. But if we don't, then eventually we'll get bored and move on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions or?
How does your dev environment look like?
I use Vim. This is my dev environment.
Why don't you do an ICO and then make the tokens do the advertising?
Yeah. So we specifically wanted to avoid it looking
just
anything like an
joking.
ICO,
I'm just joking.
for not getting into legal implications. So we specifically avoided implementing the ERC20 interface, specifically avoided referring to it as ICO and things like that.
Yeah.
And we wanted to provide some kind of utility, so it's not like pure speculation. And also like, yeah, so.
Thanks with the serious side server.
Yeah, so it's like a humble little project, but also like a little bit not.
Well, if your perspective changes, I can introduce you to a guy called Ryan over here.
Yeah. No, our next one will be an ICO.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Andre.